through all of that in order to get what I needed to get out of it and in order to be able to bless other people. You know, I've said before that, you know, when you think about the flowers and that the beautiful flowers you see and the food you eat, the wheat that's grown, the vegetables that's grown, most of the time that is fertilized with poop. And we got to go through all of that sometimes to get the beauty out of what life really has to offer us. So I'm not at a place where I feel like if I don't forgive them, then I'm not going to be able to move on. I think that God used all of that in order to use me to be able to bring forth not only still surviving and walking in your purpose, but to be able to affect people's lives on a personal level and to make change where change needs to be made and to give voice to people who
don't
at
have
some
a
time
voice.
or feel like they don't have a voice.
What a powerful, powerful testimony. You know, it's been said that the things that don't kill us make us stronger. And we know that there are millions and millions of survival stories out there. Some like Claresa's, some even worse than Claresa's. But we know that by persevering and pressing on, that those things that have happened to us, those bad things, those negative things, those things that have happened to us can be used to bring light into the darkness and to help others. So we thank Claresa for sharing her story of survival with us, because we know that it is through the testimony that deliverance comes and that healing comes. Claresa, thank you so much for sharing your story with us.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
We're going to be back with Miss Claresa Baggs in just a moment. We are back with Still Surviving and Walking in Your Purpose show creator, Miss Claresa Baggs. Claresa, after hearing your story, I fully understand why still surviving and walking in your purpose is so important. Listening to your story, it helps all of us to realize that there are stories and circumstances and situations that we don't have a clue about, things that are going on every day in people's lives. We see people walking around every day. We think we know their story, and we have no idea. I have heard many stories doing these interviews, and none of them have touched my heart the way your story has. It helps me to understand why. Because my question for you was going to be, why did you create Still Surviving and Walking in Your Purpose? Now I fully understand not only why you created it, but why you had to create it. Your story is another example of using that pain and turning that situation around to be able to help someone else.
Yes.
I know that because you have surrendered your story into God's hands to be used to be a blessing, I know that God is going to continue to use you in ways that we cannot even begin to imagine. Tell us what else is going on with Claresa Baggs.
I hope that this talk show will touch many, many lives. I hope that some of the goals of it will really take root. For instance, increasing empathy.
Yes.
There's a lot of lack of empathy in the world today. People, to your point, cast judgments on people thinking because of what they think they know. Even when it comes to me, when people find out that I have a daughter as close to my age as I do, their first reaction is, oh, you must have been hot in the butt. Oh, when I was that young, I wasn't thinking about boys. And oh, it's all aspersions and it's all condemnation.
Careless comments.
And condemnation because I apparently at 11 years old did something wrong. I did something wrong. Nobody ever asked, who is this guy? Well, who's her father? Who is this person?
Who's responsible?
Yeah, nobody ever asked that. They ought to. Their initial response is,
"What did you blame?"
Do? Yes, and when they see people who are acting out a certain way, when they see somebody who's promiscuous, when they see someone who's angry all the time, it's not just because we're not born that way. We're not born that way. There's a reason behind all of that. And you just need to take the time to ask questions. Take the time to be a listening ear. Understand that everybody has a story. Everybody. You just need to listen, and that will save so many lives. It will impact so many lives in a positive sense. We'll have a much better experiences throughout our lives if we just take the time to consider others, consider their feelings, consider what might be happening instead of just talking.
Claresa, thank you so much for sharing your story with us. But not only that, thank you so much for creating Still Surviving and Walking in Your Purpose. We know that through this show, lives are going to be changed.
Yes.
And you said it, that we will develop the empathy to understand that other people are going through things as well, to listen and to be patient and to not pass judgment on others. Reality is none of us look like what we've been through. Yes. So because we don't know another person's story, we should not be so quick to judge one another. Claresa, thank you again.
Thank you, Gigi.
We will be back with Dr. Mia Wilson with some additional resources. We are back with Dr. Mia Wilson. Dr. Wilson, welcome back to our show.
Thank you.
After hearing Claresa's story, you know, it's really hard to hear stories of abuse, especially of children. Mm-hmm. And we know that Claresa's story is just one. We know that there are many, many others, that this is happening every day all around us. What can we do about it? What can be done? There has to be an answer to Claresa's story and stories like hers.
I think the most powerful weapon against abuse is to tell. That is the most powerful weapon that we have, because a lot of times abuse is about secrets. Mm-hmm. And just as she was talking about how they want to play a game, you know, for mm-hmm. children, and make it seem like this is just a game, you know, so they speak their language, mm-hmm. in other words.
Abusers.
You know. Yes, abusers. Yeah. You know, they speak that language, and so they make it seem like it's okay, but there's this shroud of secrecy. Mm. You know, one of the things is, even if you know about it, to tell somebody. Mm-hmm. We have a lot of resources. You know, we have Department of Children and Family, and I know a lot of times people can be hesitant and say, well, I don't want the family to get in trouble. But, you know, we have to look beyond the family, mm-hmm. and beyond the dysfunction, and say we need to see the safety of that child. Mm-hmm. So the hotline is 1-800-96-ABUSE. Okay. It's a 24-hour hotline. You can call it. You can go on the website, www.myfloridafamilies.com. You can fax the report. You can email the report.
Can you call that report in anonymously?
Yes.
Or do you have to tell? You can?
Yes.
You can?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So really, the power is in breaking down that silence, that rule of silence.
Right.
And telling someone.
Right.
How much power does a person have that knows? Is that the only thing that they can do? can they just call and wait for the authorities to come in and do something? Or
Right. I mean, you can even have the child with you. What we're looking at is being able to have that child to be safe, so that they don't grow up with the hurt and the shame. Because when you're talking about sexual abuse, you're talking about really distorting that child's sexual development and causing a lot of confusion in their lives.
Right. So even as they get to be adults, even if they come out of that abusive situation, they still come out with the scars.
Because you're talking about trauma.
Right.
Anytime you're talking about any kind of abuse, you're talking about control and about that is traumatizing to the victim. So we have several centers. We have the Victim Services Center. We have children's agencies that can help the child. Getting them into counseling as soon as possible. Exactly. Getting involved in some healthy sports, activities, hobbies. Being able so that they can have an outlet. We have what's called sublimation, where you can be able to express yourself through artistic means, through drawings, through music, through poetry, short stories, just anything to be able to tell your story.
To be able to tell your story. To be able to tell your story. Dr. Wilson, thank you so much for sharing those resources with us.
You're welcome.
One thing Dr. Wilson said was that there are ways to tell your story. And I would say to anyone that's dealing with any type of abuse, don't continue to be silent. There is help out there for you. But in order to get that help, you have to tell someone. Use the resources that Dr. Wilson has provided. Confide in a friend or a neighbor, but make sure you tell someone. We have to break that code of silence that is allowing abuse to continue. Thank you for watching Still Surviving and Walking in Your Purpose.